3 months before our wedding, my fiancé Ryan posted photos on social media of his marriage certificate with my stepsister Chloe, along with pictures of her pregnant belly. The caption read, "Legally welcoming our little one into the world." Chloe commented with a shy emoji. My mom liked the post and commented, "Once the baby is born, I'll take care of it so you two can enjoy your time together." I couldn't help but reply with a question mark. Immediately, Ryan's harsh rebuke came flooding in. "She's just borrowing my name for a year of marriage. Once the baby is born, I'll come back to you. Don't be so petty." My mom also said we should only get the marriage certificate after you give birth to a son. It works out perfectly to have the wedding first and get the certificate later. I let out a faint in response, then deleted all my social media posts related to Ryan before posting a new one. "Need a new groom who wants to marry me." Ryan was the first to reply. "Olivia Yun, are you out of your mind? I'm just marrying her. Why are you making such a big deal out of it? You don't actually think posting on social media will make me jealous, do you? That's laughable. I'm warning you, stop causing trouble for no reason, and don't give Chloe a hard time." Chloe quickly followed up on Ryan's comment. "Sis, Ryan just wants our child to be born legally. I won't steal him away from you. After you and Ryan get married, my child can call you mom too. My mom scolded me for being ungrateful. You get to have a child without Chloe is helping you so much. Shouldn't you be thanking her?" Several of Ryan's friends chimed in to agree. "You and Chloe are sisters, so it doesn't matter who Ryan marries. You're all family anyway. How about Chloe gets him Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and you get Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday?" Everyone was joking and laughing. I stood there stunned, tears welling up in my eyes until they could no longer be contained, dripping down my chin onto my phone screen. They were clearly in the wrong, yet they had the audacity to turn around and blame me. How ridiculous. These people weren't worth my tears. I wiped my eyes forcefully and noticed an eye-catching comment amidst the chaos. It was from Ethan Shaw. "Can I be your new groom?" Ethan and I grew up together. After college graduation, I stayed in the city while he chose to study abroad. We had avoided close contact since I started dating Ryan in college, and it had been a long time since we last spoke. As I was pondering this, Ethan called me directly. "Olivia, I've liked you for a long time. You know I've always disliked your stepsister, so I would never have anything to do with her. I don't have any messy group of friends either. All these years I've been focused on my career and haven't had any ex-girlfriends." As he spoke, I suddenly received a contract. When I opened it, I saw it was the transfer rights to all his assets and shares. While I was still surprised, Ethan nervously continued, "Olivia, this is all my sincerity. Will you give me a chance?" My nose stunned. I suddenly remembered when we were kids, the teacher rewarded us with 2 candies he loved. Even though he really wanted them, he didn't eat a single one and gave them both to me. He had always given me his utmost sincerity. I choked up a bit as I said I will. Love had seemed so intangible. I once tried to grasp it only to end up hurt all over. I had thought that being alone would be fine. But my grandmother's dying wish was to see me married, to know that someone would take care of me from now on. Ryan wasn't worthy, but I thought if the groom was Ethan, Grandma would be really reassured. Ethan's voice was full of joy. "Then I'll wrap up work and come back to marry you within 2 weeks. Olivia, you'll wait for me and won't change, right?" His tone carried a hint of puppy-like pleading. I suddenly remembered promising as a child that I would be his bride when we grew up. I made an affirmative sound, suddenly feeling the urge to cry. "Ethan, let's pinky promise." After hanging up the phone, my mom pushed open my bedroom door. "Where's that sapphire necklace your father left you before he died?" I remained silent. Mom frowned in displeasure. "What's with that attitude? Your sister just thought it was pretty and wanted to borrow it for a few days. Hurry up and get it out. Don't be so stingy." Chloe hung onto Mom's arm, saying dejectedly, "It's okay, Mom. Olivia has never seen me as a real sister. If she doesn't want to, I won't force her. She wouldn't dare not, Rakagan. This necklace belonged to my husband, who was also your father. I'll make the decision today and give it to you." Mom hugged Chloe and glared at me sternly. "If you don't hand it over, don't blame me for having people search your room." I stared at her blankly, my smile more painful than crying. The once gentle and loving mother in my memories had ultimately become this harsh-faced figure in front of me. But I was about to leave this place forever anyway. I no longer had the heart to engage in meaningless arguments with her. I silently took the sapphire necklace out of its box and handed it to her. Mom smiled with satisfaction. "That's more like it. Chloe is your sister, so you as the older sister should let her have the nice things." After Mom left, Chloe put on the necklace right in front of me. "Sis, don't blame Mom for favoring me. To be honest, this necklace looks better on me anyway, just like how Ryan is more suitable as my boyfriend. Things that belong to me, others will never be able to get." Seeing Chloe's smug expression, I didn't say a word. People like her. The more you engage, the more they push it. I picked up my bag and walked past her down the stairs, treating her like thin air. "Ah, sis, why did you push me?" Chloe suddenly darted in front of me, pretending I had pushed her as she stumbled backwards towards the stairs. Although I disliked her, I instinctively reached out to grab. After all, falling down over 20 steps was no joke. Olivia Young, you vicious woman. Ryan violently slapped away my hand that was holding Chloe's arm. My hand smacked hard against the railing with a loud thud. I broke out in a cold sweat from the pain. Ryan, thank goodness you came in time, or else Chloe hid in Ryan's arms, her face tearful and frightened. It's okay. Don't be scared. I'm here. Ryan stroked Chloe's head, gently comforting her. I won't let anyone bully you. I looked at my own hand, which was bruised, swollen, and possibly fractured from the impact. Then I looked at Chloe, who had only been startled, but was now being tightly held and fussed over by Ryan. Suddenly, it all felt so ironic. The boy who once doted on me and promised to be good to me for life. The man who was supposed to marry me in just 3 months. How could he have suddenly changed his heart after comforting Chloe? Ryan glared at me darkly. I know you've been unhappy about me marrying her and having a child behind your back. You can take it out on me if you want, since I didn't tell you in advance. But you can't hurt Chloe. Her health is poor. She's pitiful enough already. She just asked me to give her a chance to be a mother. Is that wrong? Why should she bear the brunt of your anger? He angrily pointed at me. You must apologize to Chloe today. I struggled to control my trembling body, hissing, then what did I do wrong? What exactly did I do wrong? Ryan stared at my reddened eyes, taken aback for a mom. Forget it, Ryan. Even though I almost fell to my death, I don't blame Olivia, and I don't need her to apologize to me. You and Olivia are still getting married in the future. I don't want you to argue because of me. Chloe cried sorrowfully. Ryan sighed, saying tenderly, Chloe, your understanding sometimes really breaks my heart. He looked at me coldly. In the end, you're just jealous of Chloe and can't stand to see her doing better than you. I'll let it go today since Chloe spoke up for you. But if you dare hurt her again in the future, I won't let you off so easily. He picked up Chloe and said disappointedly before leaving, You're not even half as good as your sister. Only I was left in the silent living room. I stared blankly at the falling leaves outside the window. Final, unable to hold back, I crouched down and buried my face in my hands, sobbing. This is the last time. The last time I'll cry over Ryan Cooper. That afternoon, Ryan posted on social media. It was a set of 9 photos. The photos showed 9 different corners of a home. The caption read, Every room, every piece of furniture, every decoration here was carefully chosen and arranged by me, hoping to give my baby a warm and comfortable home. Many people offered their congratulations in the comments. Congratulations to Mr. Cooper on having a son so soon. So Mr. Cooper and Olivia are having a shotgun wedding. Congrats to have such a good husband like Ryan. Olivia is so lucky. I'm so envious. Even if I had to turn down I absolutely wouldn't miss your wedding 3 months from now. Just as the comment section was bustling with congratulations, Chloe suddenly chimed in, Everyone, please don't misunderstand. This isn't Ryan's marital home. It's my house. The comments suddenly turned awkward. I was the first to break the silence, posting, "Three's a crowd. I'm out wishing you two happiness." After that, I couldn't be bothered to see what else they would say. I directly deleted Ryan and Chloe from my friends list. Within minutes, Ryan called me Olivia Young. "Have you had enough of this nonsense?" I calmly replied. "I'm not being nonsensical," Ryan fumed. "What you said in my comment section was clearly trying to smear dirt on Chloe. Do you have to label Chloe as if you keep slandering her, let's just call off the wedding?" I listened to his cold and heartless accusations, my heart like dead water, calm and undisturbed. Ryan Cooper, what makes you think I would still want something secondhand? I hung up the phone. Perhaps the word secondhand stung him. He called me countless times after that. When the calls wouldn't go through, he sent all kinds of messages. I ignored them all. In 10 days, I would be marrying Ethan. These people would all become part of my past. I had hoped to spend the remaining days peacefully coexisting with them, but I never expected Chloe to knock over my father's urn, the ashes scattered on the ground. Not only was she not remorseful, she even let her pet cat urinate on them. Then she looked at me, half sis. "Look, the ashes can even be used as cat litter for my kitty." In that moment, the grief and anger pent up in my heart exploded. I suddenly grabbed the baseball bat behind the door and swung it viciously at Chloe. She took one hit and ran away screaming, her face pale. "Olivia Young, you've really gone too far. How dare you hit your sister?" My mom's appearance made Chloe feel like she had found a savior. She hid behind Mom, looking terrified. Choking back sobs, she said, "Mom, I'm scared." Olivia tried to kill me. Mom shielded Chloe like a mother hen, protecting her chick, sternly rebuking me. "I've let it slide when you bullied your sister before, treating it as harmless squabbling. But this time you've gone too far." She was yet she always stood in opposition to me, defending an adopted daughter with no blood relation to her. Nothing could be more heartbreaking than this. I stared at Mom with tear-filled eyes. She knocked over Dad's urn. That was Dad. That was my dad. Why? 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 Even though I had already been so tolerant, did they have to destroy the memento Dad left for me? Why didn't my mom love me? Chloe quickly knelt down to explain. Mom, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. What? I'm so sorry, Mom. If Olivia won't forgive me, I might as well die. Chloe cried heartbrokenly. Chloe Wilson, don't you dare slap. Before I could finish speaking, Mom slapped me across the face. Enough. It's just ashes. Are ashes more important than the living? If you bully Chloe again, you can get out of this house. This slap shattered any last shred of attachment I had for her. This was for the best. I could leave without any lingering feelings. The sun filtered through my curtains the next morning, bathing the room in golden light. I sat on the edge of the bed, my fingers tracing the faint mark on my cheek from my mother's slap. It wasn't the sting that lingered. It was the finality. The confirmation that I didn't belong here. Not in this house, not in this family, not in this role of the invisible daughter. I had always known deep down that my mother favored Chloe. But I had clung to the hope that blood meant something. That maybe one day she would remember I was her daughter too. Now, with my father's ashes desecrated, my childhood home poisoned with betrayal, I knew that hope was dead. And so, I packed. Carefully, silently. I didn't take much. Just a small suitcase, my phone, my documents, and the few keepsakes I had left that Chloe hadn't laid claim to. I left behind the house key on the kitchen counter, next to a photo of Dad holding me at age 5. I took that photo, though. That one, they wouldn't get to keep. I stepped outside without a word, walked to the corner of the street, and called Ethan. He picked up on the first ring. Olivia? I'm ready, I whispered. There was silence on the other end for a second before his voice came through, warm and steady. Where are you? Just down the road from my mom's house. I'm coming. 20 minutes later, his car pulled up. When he stepped out, he was dressed in a crisp button-down, sleeves rolled to his elbows. His eyes scanned my face, and something in them softened. Without saying a word, he opened the passenger door. I slid in. He didn't ask questions. We drove in silence until we reached his apartment. Ethan lived in a high-rise overlooking the river. The moment I stepped inside, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. Everything was clean, serene, and quiet. He made tea, sat across from me at the kitchen table. You don't have to tell me anything, he said. Not until you're ready. I stared at the steam rising from the mug. She knocked over his urn. Chloe, she let her cat piss on it. Ethan's hands curled into fists on the table, and my mom slapped me for reacting, I added, my voice cracking. She told me the ashes weren't more important than Chloe. Ethan didn't speak. He just stood and walked around the table to kneel beside me, wrapping his arms around my waist. I don't know how I ever called those people family, I whispered, burying my face in his shoulder. They never were, he replied. You just deserved better from the start. I stayed with Ethan that night, and the night after. Every day, I watched messages pile up on my phone from Ryan, from my mom, from people who only now realized I was serious about walking away. And every day, I ignored them. The day of my wedding to Ethan arrived quicker than I expected. Word had gotten out, of course. Ryan's friends gossiped. My mother called me a disgrace. Chloe posted cryptic quotes about betrayal and sisterhood. None of it mattered. Ethan had booked a small chapel on a hilltop, surrounded by golden fields and cherry blossom trees. My dress was simple, ivory silk, sleeveless, with a modest train. I did my own makeup, calm hands brushing mascara through lashes as I stared into the mirror. There was no wedding planner, no maid of honor. Just Ethan and me, and the promise we made as children. He stood waiting at the end of the aisle. When the music began, I walked slowly toward him, each step a goodbye to the pain I had carried. Ethan's eyes never left mine. When I reached him, he whispered, "You're home now." We exchanged vows beneath the cherry trees, with only a few close friends in attendance. It was perfect. It was real. It was ours. And yet, I knew the world I left behind would not stay quiet forever. I didn't pack a single thing when I left. I just walked out the front door and didn't look back. My face still stung from the slap. My soul, however, felt strangely light. There was no more pain, just numbness, just release. For 26 years, I had bent and broken myself for the approval of a mother who never truly saw me. That ended today. Ethan picked me up outside the house. He didn't say anything when he saw my swollen hand, my tear-streaked face, or the light bleeding from the corner of my lip. He just pulled me into a hug so tight and steady, it felt like the only real home I had left. "Come on," he whispered. "You're safe now." He drove me to a quiet beachfront cottage he'd rented for the next week, away from the city, away from the chaos. Inside, everything was warm, calm, and filled with peace I hadn't known in years. There was a note on the dining table written in his familiar, careful handwriting. "Your heart deserves gentleness. Let me show you that not all love wounds." I broke down then. Not from pain, but from the realization that someone had finally chosen me, without conditions or manipulation. For the next several days, Ethan helped me heal. I got my hand treated. We walked along the shoreline in silence. We talked, laughed, cried. I learned more about him in those few days than I had in all the years growing up together. He had built a life with integrity, passion, and purpose, and now he wanted to share it with me. Meanwhile, Ryan's calls kept flooding in. So did the texts. He was furious, confused, desperate. The wedding invitations had already gone out. People were starting to talk, but I didn't respond. Then came the knock at the cottage door. Ethan answered it while I stood behind the partition. I heard Ryan's voice, frantic. "Where is she? I just need to talk to her, please, Olivia." Ethan didn't raise his voice. He didn't slam the door. He simply said, "She doesn't belong to you anymore." Then he shut the door in his face. I thought that would be the end. But Chloe had one more performance left in her. She posted a video online. It was filled with crocodile tears, claiming I had abandoned my family, hit her without provocation, and ruined her pregnancy. She showed a fake doctor's report, implying she had suffered a miscarriage because of me. It went viral. The comment section was brutal. People I didn't know flooded my inbox with hate. Chloe knew how to play the victim well, and I knew fighting back online would only make it worse. So I took the evidence to court. Within a week, my lawyer released a counterstatement with security footage from inside the house, screenshots of Chloe's messages mocking my father's death, and proof from a real doctor that Chloe was never pregnant at all. The internet turned on her fast. Sponsors pulled out. Ryan's social media account was deactivated after a flood of negative comments. My mother went silent. The truth has a funny way of winning when you stop trying to scream it and just let the facts speak. 10 days later, Ethan and I got married in a small private ceremony by the ocean. Just us, a few close friends, and the sound of waves. I wore a simple ivory dress. No veil, no elaborate decor, just honesty and peace. As we exchanged vows, Ethan held my trembling hands and said, "I won't promise to fix what others broke, Olivia, but I will walk beside you while you heal. And I'll love you. Not just when you're strong, but even when you can't be." I whispered back, "I never thought I'd deserve this." He smiled. "You always did." We kissed under the fading sun, and in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long, long time. Freedom. Epilogue. 6 months later, I got a letter in the mail. It was from my mother. No apology. Just a demand to return the necklace I had left behind. I tossed it in the trash. As for Ryan and Chloe, they broke up shortly after the truth came out. Turns out lies and betrayal don't make a solid foundation for love. Who knew? Ethan and I now live in a quiet home filled with laughter, coffee, shared books, and no secrets. And me? I finally became the woman I was meant to be. Not in spite of the pain, but because I walked through it. And I would never let anyone dim my light again. I packed that night, not with anger, not even sadness, just a deep, hollow calm. The kind that comes after a storm, when there's nothing left to break or bleed. I folded the last of my clothes into the suitcase and zipped it shut. The room felt foreign now. 4 walls and a roof, but no longer a home. I left the necklace box empty on the nightstand, the one Chloe stole from, the one Mom handed to her without hesitation, without shame. Let her keep it. Let them all have their tokens and trophies. I was taking the one thing they never expected me to, myself. Outside, the night air felt sharp and clean. My breath fogged in front of me as I walked away from the only family I'd ever known. Behind me, the house stood in silence. No one came after me. Not Mom, not Chloe, not Ryan. Good. I checked into a hotel under a different name, Olivia Shaw, a small nod to the man who reminded me what it felt like to be chosen for who I am, not what I could give. I sent Ethan a message with the new address. He replied immediately. "Ethan, I'm booking my flight. I'll be there tomorrow." That night, I didn't cry. I slept. By the time Ethan arrived the next day, I was already dressed, standing by the window with a cup of coffee. When the knock came, I opened the door and found him there, suitcase in hand, eyes wide with concern, and something else. Love. He didn't say a word. He just stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me like he was afraid I might disappear if he didn't hold tight enough. "I'm here now," he whispered. "No one's ever going to hurt you again." And I believed him. The next few days were quiet, peaceful, healing. Ethan helped me move the rest of my things into a new apartment, one we picked together, far from the neighborhood I grew up in. We chose new furniture, new curtains, even new plates. It felt like painting over an old canvas with fresh colors. Every now and then, Chloe or Ryan would try to reach me. Blocked. Mom left me a voicemail after finding out I was gone. Her voice wavered between guilt and irritation. Mom, you've always been too sensitive, Olivia. Come back home, let's talk. Chloe didn't mean it. She's young. You've got to stop blowing everything out of proportion. Delete. I wasn't listening anymore. One morning, Ethan and I sat on the couch, sipping tea while watching the sunrise. I've been thinking, he said, brushing a strand of hair from my face. Let's move the wedding up. I blinked. What? Let's get married this weekend. Small ceremony. Just us and a few friends. No drama, no history, just a new beginning. I stared at him, a laugh bubbling up before I could stop it. Are you serious? As a heartbeat. I leaned into his chest, smiling. Then let's do it. And we did. That Saturday, in a garden blooming with late spring flowers, I stood in a cream-colored dress that shimmered in the sun. My heart raced, but not from fear, from something like freedom. Ethan stood at the other end of the aisle, in a navy suit and with eyes that never left mine. No church, no crowd, no lies, just truth. We exchanged vows that we wrote ourselves. Ethan's hands trembled slightly as he slipped the ring onto my finger. You've been through fire, Olivia, but you didn't burn. You became the flame. And I meant every word when I said, I promise, from this day forward, I'll never shrink myself to make someone else comfortable, and I'll never let anyone else write my story. We kissed. The guests, just a few close friends, Ethan's colleagues, and the photographer, clapped softly. Somewhere, Ryan and Chloe were probably planning their gender reveal party. Let them. But what they didn't know was that I was done playing defense, because I'd kept something. Not for revenge, for clarity. I had saved every screenshot, every cruel comment, every humiliating message. I had the evidence of Chloe mocking my dad's ashes, of Ryan's lies, of their fake marriage contract, of Mom's manipulation. Not to ruin them, no. I didn't need that kind of energy. But I was about to do something better. The very next week, I launched a blog, a place where women could anonymously share stories of betrayal, resilience, and rebirth. I titled it, Ashes to Armor. In my first post, I wrote, I was discarded by my own family, betrayed by my fiancé and stepsister, gaslighted by the people who were supposed to love me most. But this isn't a tragedy. It's a reckoning. The post went viral within days. Emails flooded in from women with eerily similar stories. Women who had survived family betrayal, stolen inheritances, emotional abuse. Women who had found strength in walking away. Ryan saw the blog. He texted. Ryan, this is about us, isn't it? How could you do this? I didn't respond. Chloe emailed me from a new address. Chloe, you're making me look bad. I'm pregnant. Why are you trying to ruin our happiness? I closed the email. Mom called me from a landline. I didn't even pick up. Ethan and I continued to build our life together. We traveled, we adopted a dog, we hosted dinner parties with people who genuinely cared about us. We created a home that smelled like lavender and cinnamon rolls instead of resentment and fear. And every time I looked in the mirror, I saw someone I liked. Someone who had been broken, but not beaten. Someone who had been thrown away, but climbed back, stronger. Someone who now knew that being alone is better than being surrounded by people who never truly loved you. And someone who, against all odds, found real love in the end. The silence in the room after the slap was deafening. I didn't cry, not this time. The sting on my cheek faded compared to the ache in my chest, but even that was dulled now, like a wound that had bled too long. Chloe stood behind my mother, peeking out with those wide, manipulative eyes, clutching the necklace that once belonged to my father like it had always been hers. My father's ashes, his final trace, had been disrespected, and no one cared. No one except me. I looked at my mother, truly looked at her. This woman wasn't my mother, not anymore. She had chosen her side and it wasn't mine. I'll get out, I whispered. You don't need to worry about that. I turned and walked upstairs, not to argue, not to fight. I walked to gather the last few things I owned. A few boxes, some clothes, my laptop, and a photo album I had hidden deep in my drawer. I didn't say a word as I packed. When I came back downstairs, Chloe and my mother were still standing by the broken urn. The cat, oblivious to the chaos it had helped create, was curled up on the couch. Consider this my final goodbye, I said calmly. You're making such a scene over a bit of dust, my mother muttered. I froze in the doorway. That dust, I said, voice shaking, was a man who loved me, something you never learned how to do. Then I left. Ethan picked me up that evening. When he saw the bruises on my wrist and the red mark still faintly on my cheek, he didn't say anything at first. He just helped me carry my boxes into his car, fastened my seatbelt gently like I was glass, and drove. "I made dinner," he finally said after a while, "but we can just eat takeout if you're not up for it." "Homemade sounds nice," I said softly. That night, Ethan sat across from me at his kitchen table while I told him everything, from the marriage certificate, to Chloe's manipulations, to my mother's final betrayal. He listened without interrupting, his knuckles white as he gripped his fork. "You're safe now," he said when I finished. I looked around at his apartment, neat, warm, filled with quiet strength. It felt like breathing clean air after being trapped in a smoke-filled room. "I know," I whispered. "Thank you for not asking me to stay silent." Ethan stood, walked over, and knelt beside my chair. "You're the strongest woman I know, Olivia, but you don't have to carry this alone anymore." His forehead rested against my knee, and I felt the weight of my loneliness begin to melt. The days that followed were a whirlwind. Ethan and I picked out rings, planned a small ceremony, and kept everything private. No grand social media posts, no announcements, just peace. We chose to marry in a small botanical garden. I wore a simple ivory dress, nothing extravagant, just elegant and clean. My grandmother's photo sat in the front row on a little chair adorned with lilies. Ethan's parents flew in from abroad, teary-eyed and thrilled. It wasn't the wedding I had once imagined. It was better. When I said I do, I didn't feel fear. I didn't feel like I was making a compromise or a sacrifice. I felt like I was choosing myself, for the first time in years. 2 months after our wedding, Ryan tried to contact me again. Apparently, Chloe had suffered complications with her pregnancy. The baby didn't survive. The loss shattered her carefully curated persona. She spiraled, posting cryptic messages, lashing out at family, accusing Ryan of being distant and uncaring. He reached out to me in the dead of night. "Olivia, I made a mistake. I should have chosen you." I stared at the message, then showed it to Ethan. He glanced at it and then looked at me. "You don't have to respond," he said. But I did. "You didn't lose me to Chloe. You lost me to yourself. I would have walked through fire for you, and you gave me ashes." I blocked him for good. Now I live in a home filled with sunlight and honesty. Ethan and I built a business together, a small startup focused on data security. We work side by side, and for once, I don't feel like I'm the only one carrying the weight. Sometimes I still remember the girl I used to be, the one who cried herself to sleep wondering why love hurt so much. She doesn't live here anymore. I buried her the day I married Ethan. And in her place stands someone new, someone who knows her worth, someone who doesn't beg to be loved, someone who chooses peace over chaos. I am Olivia Yun, and I am finally free. A year passed. 1 full year since I walked out of that house with nothing but a bruised hand, a broken heart, and a promise to myself that I'd never go back. And I didn't. My life with Ethan had become everything I never believed was possible. Steady, calm, loving. He never once made me feel like I had to earn his affection or compete for his attention. I didn't have to prove I was worthy. I just was. We moved into a modest home near the outskirts of the city, surrounded by nature. On weekends, we'd hike. On rainy days, we'd read together on the couch. On quiet nights, we'd cook, share wine, and dance barefoot in the kitchen. Peace became my new addiction. And then one day, peace knocked again. But this time, in the form of closure. It was a letter, unmarked envelope, no return address. But the handwriting? Unmistakable. Chloe. Dear Olivia, I know I have no right to write to you, and I don't expect forgiveness. But after everything that's happened, I needed you to know the truth. Ryan and I are over. He left 6 months ago and hasn't contacted me since. My baby was never his. I lied, because I knew if he left me for you, I'd have nothing. So I trapped him the only way I knew how, but it didn't last. Nothing built on lies ever does. Mom's alone now too. She hasn't spoken to me since the day she found out. Turns out when I wasn't useful anymore, she stopped loving me too. I just wanted you to know, I'm sorry for everything. I never deserved to be your sister. There were tear stains on the page. Whether they were real or part of another manipulation, I didn't know. And honestly, it didn't matter. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer I never opened again. Some wounds don't need revisiting. Some people don't need answers. Some chapters don't need epilogues. One bright spring morning, Ethan and I stood together on a grassy hill behind our home, where we had planted a single cherry blossom tree in honor of my father. The wind carried its petals gently through the air, like a soft whisper from the past. I think he would have liked it here, I said, tracing my fingers over the bark. He would have been proud of you, Ethan replied. I smiled, finally able to say something I never believed I would. I'm proud of me too. And for the first time in years, that girl who once cried on cold bedroom floors, who begged to be chosen, who tried so hard to be loved. She smiled back from within me. She was no longer broken. She had become whole.